everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hey. It's good to be in Buffalo. Everybody, please have a seat. Have a seat. Get comfortable. I'm sorry for the delay. This was a secret. I only told Dave, but then I thought I probably should tell all of you that I had to go out and try those wings before I came. So if you see some of the sauce, that's why. And I can vouch for Duff's crispy medium. That's what I had. Very nice. Outstanding. And so it is just a thrill to be here. I'm glad that it's not snowing. Thank you. Last Sunday, right? You guys still got snow? Sheesh. I thought Chicago was bad. This is worse. But I'm really thrilled to be here, partly because it gives me a chance to get out and Washington. And I've been trying to make a habit of that. About once a week or so, I try to take a trip outside of Washington. Now, don't get me wrong, Washington is a beautiful city. I've got a really nice office. And I live above the store, so the commute is really short. But you've heard of being in the bubble. You know, when you're in Washington, sometimes it's just hard to hear anything else except the clamor of politics. And that clamor can drown out the voices of the American people. So I'm not going to give a long speech today. I actually want to take some time to take a few questions from you. Hear about your concerns, your hopes, what opportunities you see out there. But before I do, I do want to say a few words about the thing that I know is in the front and center of everybody's mind, and that's the state of our economy. Now, I don't need to tell all of you that we're still emerging from one of the worst recessions in our history. And it's been tough everywhere, but cities like Buffalo have been especially hard hit. And even before the most recent downturn began, years before, you were seeing jobs disappear and factories shut their doors. Costs, family expenses went up, but wages, they flatlined, they didn't go up. And that's tough on families, and that's devastating on communities. So, breaking our economic freefall was job number one when I took office. I want everybody to remember, because sometimes we've got a selective memory here. When I took office, we were losing 750,000 jobs a month. Our economy had shrunk the quarter I came in 6%. Experts of all political stripes were warning of another Great Depression. That wasn't that long ago, but it's easy to forget just how fragile things are and how scared people were. And so we had to take immediate steps to stop the crisis. And some of those steps weren't particularly popular. I had just inherited a $1.3 trillion deficit from the previous administration, so the last thing I wanted to do was to spend money on a recovery package or help the American auto industry keep its doors open or prevent the collapse of Wall Street, banks whose irresponsibility had helped cause this crisis. But what I knew was if I didn't act boldly and I didn't act quickly, if we didn't defy the politics of the moment and do what was necessary, we could have risked an even greater disaster. And the other thing we weren't going to do is give in to the partisan posturing in Washington. Because half the time up there, all everybody's worried about is what does the poll say? And making calculations based on what's good for the next election instead of what is good for the next generation. And frankly, I had one side of the aisle just sit on the sidelines as the crisis unfolded. And if we had taken that position, just thinking about what was good for my politics, millions more Americans would have lost their jobs, and their businesses, and their homes. But Buffalo, I did not run for president to preside over America's decline. I didn't run for president to watch the erosion of the middle class continue. I ran for president to keep the American dream alive in our time, for our kids and our grandkids and the next generation. So we met our responsibilities. We did what the moment required. Now, I won't stand here and pretend that we've climbed all the way out of the hole. There are too many folks right here in Buffalo and all across the country who are still hurting. I read too many letters each night from folks who are still hurting. They're still out of work. So I know things are still tough out there for a lot of folks. And you know, economists have all kinds of fancy formulas and mathematical equations to measure the exact moment that the recession ended. And it's great that the stock market's bounced back. But if you're still looking for a job out there, it's still a recession. If you can't pay your bills or your mortgage, it's still a recession. No matter what the economists say, it's not a real recovery until people feel it in their own lives. Until Americans who want work can find it. Until families can afford to pay their bills and send their kids to college. So that's what we're working for. That's our goal. But I want to just say to Buffalo, I want to say to all of you, and I want to say to America, we can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, today we are headed in the right direction. We are headed in the right direction. All those tough steps we took, they're working. Despite all the naysayers who were predicting failure a year ago, our economy's growing again. Last month we had the strongest job growth that we had seen in years. And by the way, almost all of it was in the private sector. And a bunch of it was manufacturing. So this month was better than last month. Next month's going to be stronger than this month. And next year is going to be better than this year.